Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope we're having a wonderful start to the week out there, and hopefully we had a wonderful weekend as well. Now, for today's video, we do have some very active weather in some parts of the country, but for other parts of the country, things are actually very calm. In fact, probably about as calm as we've seen within the past month or so. So again, some of us really, kind of got to be very weather aware today and tomorrow, and then the other half kind of just can get out there and enjoy some of the more average February weather that we are seeing out there before bigger changes and more of a roller coaster pattern kind of works on in later this week, and we'll definitely talk about that in today's video. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and of course, as always, comment, let me know what you're seeing out there, and tell me if you're excited for kind of the pattern ahead, and I'll tell you exactly, again, what that'll look like here later on in the video. But again, just kind of comment, let me know what you're hoping for as we end out February here and start thinking about kind of March on the horizon here, really only about 2 weeks away or so, so really not far at all. Alrighty, with that said, let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with satellite imagery like we normally do, and you'll notice for, again, a big section of the country, particularly everyone really east of the Rockies here, we're in a big-time lull. We have very little cloud cover, very little showing up on our infrared satellite outside of a very small disturbance kind of working on through southern Georgia and South Carolina, a little bit of a short wave there, and then some cloud cover with a kind of drying out, dying system here into the northern Great Plains. Now, obviously, the bigger elephant in the room here on the map is back west towards California. Big time coastal low pressure here, bringing a lot of wind energy ashore, and with it, a big shield of active weather working on through the western half of the country today. And that, again, is going to be the big story in today's video, where we'll even have some historic kind of weather out in California today. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. Now, taking a look at radar imagery and our watches and warnings. Again, if you're watching east of the Rockies, which I know is a lot of my viewer base, so, bear with me whenever I talk about the West Coast. But again, everyone kind of in the circle part of your map here, really not much going on. We do, again, have some showers moving on through South Carolina and Georgia. This wasn't modeled very well, so you might not have seen this on your little weather app overnight. You might be wondering, well, where is this coming from? We see this often, this little short wave just overperforming a little bit, and it's almost a little unfortunate because would this have happened maybe a little bit earlier into the overnight, it would have been possible maybe to even see some snowflakes or sleet pellets out of this. But now that we've warmed up pretty good into the afternoon hours here, this is likely just some light rain falling across that area. But if you're watching from the South Carolina Midlands and into the Savannah River Valley, definitely let me know what you're seeing falling from the sky, if any of that is reaching the ground at all. Definitely would love to hear those reports. Now, obviously, again, the bigger elephant in the room is back out west, and we'll take a look at that here now. And again, like I said, very active weather out here. We've got widespread rain and snow showers into this area, but more importantly, just look at all these watches, warnings, and advisories here on the map, and I'll move the radar off just so we can look at those here for a moment. But in the pink here into California, into the higher terrains, those are winter storm warnings. Again, the Sierra Nevadas are no stranger to snow, and sure enough, more of it on the way here throughout the next couple of days. Now, in kind of this more of a brown color here that you're seeing into the kind of Silicon Valley area from Sacramento down into San Jose and San Francisco, those are wind advisories, and then we have high wind warnings and more of this kind of darker brown, kind of mustardy color, if you will. Those are, again, like I said, high wind warnings. And then we also have some flood watches in the green here and flash flood warnings here into Southern California, to kind of zoom in on that a little bit more here, as it's obviously pretty important. Down here into the Santa Barbara area and Santa Maria, those kind of surrounding areas here just to the north of LA and Long Beach. Again, seeing some flooding out there. So a lot of active weather ongoing. And another threat that you're not seeing on this map, but that we have to talk about, is severe weather today. Not out of the question to see some strong storms, including tornadoes, into Northern California, which again is pretty unprecedented on its own right, but even more unprecedented whenever we think about what time of the year it is. And again, it's February, so really uncommon to see that sort of thing in this part of the country, or really just this part of the world during this time of the year. All right, very quickly, just going over our kind of pattern here. As I mentioned, this big kind of eyeball looking at you on the map, that's that low pressure we talked about, with that big bowling ball trough, if you will, kind of off the coast of California. That's supplying all of this active weather. And again, in the southeast, we do have a bit of a disturbance crossing on through. And that just kind of, again, backs up what I showed you on satellite and radar. So won't talk too much more about that. But just for, you bigger weather nerds like myself, just figured I'd go ahead and show this map really quickly as well. All right, as I talked about today, again, kind of an unprecedented severe weather risk. We've got a slight risk of severe weather and a marginal risk here into Northern California, kind of into the Sacramento area. So Again, that in itself is pretty unusual to see this time of year, but whenever I show you the tornado threat, you'll really kind of realize how unusual this is. This is a 5% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius here, and again, we just don't see this very often in this part of the country, really ever, let alone here again kind of into mid to late February. So quite unprecedented time today, and again, we've just got a lot of wind energy. We also have some dry air kind of ingesting into the storm system, which is going to help to make storm mode stay a little bit more discreet, and again, really up these tornado chances in this northern section of California. So again, definitely watching that throughout today. Now, it's not the only threat. Again, flash flooding, it has been quite the the past winter, I guess. All winter has been quite a active time for California in the flooding department as well. And once again, a moderate risk of excessive rainfall here in those areas that I showed you those flash flood warnings here into kind of the areas just north of LA here. So again, have a way to get those watches and warnings. And even if you're just in the yellow or the green area on this map, you still have a threat for flooding today. So again, you really want to be, or have a way, I guess, to get those warnings should any warnings be issued, and have a kind of safety plan as well. If you know you live in a flood-prone area, just go ahead and, have that plan ready should you need to activate it and kind of get on out of Dodge before things turn for the worst. All right, that's severe weather, that's flooding. Well, winter weather also going to be very active here with this storm system. A likely extreme winter storm impacts over the next 3 days here into the highest terrains of the Sierra Nevadas here. But even into the mountains back here into Nevada, could also see some moderate to major impacts. The mountains here into extreme northern California, and I'm sorry I don't know the name of every mountain range out here. I'll definitely have to brush up on my geography out west. But even out here into Salt Lake City, some of these ski resorts could also see some pretty big-time winter storm impacts over the next 3 days or so. So again, just a very active time for the West Coast. All right, I'm sure you're tired of looking at just plain old maps telling you the threats. Let's kind of look at this on radar a little bit, and here we go. This afternoon, I know this isn't super zoomed in, but right here, this is where we're looking at that severe weather threat. Look at some of these cells coming in off the Pacific and kind of getting into the valleys here of California. And again, very possible that some of these could produce some brief tornadoes. Hail and strong wind are also a threat. But as we move this throughout the day, again, just look at that. Here specifically, this is about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and you'll notice, look at these storms, again, kind of in this area, and I know it's small on your map. In fact, you know what, let me go ahead and zoom in just so I can make this a little bit easier on everybody. Going to do this on the fly here. All right, there we go. I should make this a little bit easier to see here into California. But yeah, again, perfect. Here we go, 3 o'clock. Look at some of these very isolated storms. This is the kind of stuff you see in the Great Plains during May, but instead we're seeing it in California in February. And kind of the interesting thing about this is these are going to be storms that go from having the potential to produce tornadoes to then being kind of snow squalls into the mountains. Look at kind of how they are connected here. See these kind of, just individual areas of blue showing up on your map. Well, if I go an hour earlier, those are strong thunderstorms and even supercells moving on through, and then they hit the mountain chain, hit those cold temperatures, and then you're getting basically thunderstorms that are moving into kind of colder air and producing snow. So thunder snow, I think definitely a possibility out here into the Sierra Nevadas today, and will continue so overnight tonight as more of these storms work on through before eventually here getting into the overnight hours, the severe weather threat dies down, and it's more of just a rainy threat for many folks into California. And that continues into overnight tonight, and by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning for our Tuesday, more of the same here with some scattered showers, storms, less of a severe weather threat, and continuing with that mountain snowfall. So again, kind of interesting there. I'm going to zoom things back out here once more, just so we can take a look at the West Coast a little bit more broadly. All right, so as I mentioned, this is Tuesday morning. Also seeing some showers up and down the Oregon and Washington coastline, so definitely be prepared for that. And also some snow showers out here into Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah. Again, just about everyone out west is going to get some active weather out of this here over the next couple of days into Tuesday afternoon here. You'll notice the precipitation becoming a little bit more scattered in nature, but still watching that mountain snow, valley rain, and even a couple rumbles of thunder possible here into the west coast. Now getting into Tuesday evening here, again, just more of the same continuing. Luckily at this point, the severe weather threat begins to die down. Again, today's really the main severe weather day. And then we get later on into Tuesday overnight here, and this really just turns into more of a rain and snow event with lighter rain, not quite as heavy, and lighter snow, but a little bit more widespread here. Going into Wednesday morning, waking up, again, widespread rain showers into the coast of the West Coast, and then some also pretty widespread snow showers into the higher terrains. And that will likely continue into our Wednesday afternoon as well. So here we go. That storm system continuing to work on through. You'll notice that mountain snow picking up through Colorado, Utah, and into kind of surrounding states here on our Thursday morning. But after that, things kind of die down back into the West Coast itself for our Thursday afternoon. I think once we hit Thursday onward, we're going to get a bit of a lull before kind of later on down the road another storm system tries to work on in. But again, that's kind of just what we're looking at over the next couple of days. Now, snowfall totals, I think this is going to be more of a California, Nevada, Utah snow event, but again, we are going to see some snow showers here through Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, and even Montana could see some snow out of this. Again, lesser totals here, and obviously very elevation dependent, which I know I say in every video, but I will continue to say it because it's the truth. All right, now, again, the real winners into the Sierra Nevadas here. We could see some isolated spots here. Again, this is just now through this weekend, hitting more than a foot of snow. I think some places even more than that, where we get kind of those snow squalls to set up a little bit. We could see multiple feet of snow. Definitely not out of the question. And same story out here into Utah. I think lesser totals near Salt Lake City, but again, could see a foot or two of snow on those higher peaks. And then some of these higher peaks into Nevada as well. A foot of snow or so, again, up onto the highest elevations. All right, now very quickly touching on the East Coast over the next 48 hours or so. I'm going to breeze on through this pretty quickly, but here we go. Monday afternoon, again, models are not showing it very well, but we do have some light rain showers down here into South Carolina and Georgia, so definitely watch out for that. But outside of there, I mean, we're pretty quiet. Could see some scattered snow showers into the UP of Michigan, maybe into portions of Quebec, maybe into a little bit of New York State as well. But again, just really not that much going on. And this gets us into our evening time tonight, about 7 o'clock. You'll notice still all clear on the map. Breezing on through tonight, all clear again. Waking up Tuesday morning, more of the same, just kind of cool and dry conditions overtaking much of the country. And that continues even into our Wednesday morning here. Although I will mention, as we get into Wednesday morning, watch out, because here comes our next storm system beginning to get its act together, and that will eventually lead to some precipitation developing. And we'll take a look at that here next up on our next couple of maps. Now, very quickly, I do want to talk about temperatures here a little bit, and I'll move that over to the side just so you can see it even better. These are high temperatures expected today from the National Weather Service, and again, overall, a pretty nice day out into the east. You'll notice kind of an average February day, maybe a little bit colder than normal into the northeast, where that block of cold air that moved out of Canada is really anchored over you. But for the Ohio River Valley and mid-Atlantic, temperatures getting into the 40s and 50s this afternoon, a little bit colder through Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, but you get south of the Ohio River here, we're going to get well up into the 50s this afternoon with abundant sunshine as well, so it likely won't even feel all that cold. And remember, we're getting later into February, so these sun angles are getting a little bit higher, and it's doing a little bit more to kind of help warm you up if you're in the sun. But the real winners today out here into Texas, specifically into West Texas here, getting well up into the 70s, a very nice spring-like day for a lot of folks there. And I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy that before getting into tomorrow, another warm day, in fact, even warmer than today, as a big roller coaster shift kind of begins. Again, we had a very chilly weekend. The beginning and middle part of this week will quickly warm up before later on into this coming weekend, once again, we cool down. So see that pretty often in February, and I think that continues here with, again, just this up-down pattern of temperatures. But here we go. Tomorrow afternoon, everyone is warmer than they are today here east of the Rockies, and really just throughout much of the country as a whole. You're not going to really be any colder than you are today. So this will begin that warming trend, and again, just kind of find your city here on the map, and you can see your temperatures. But you'll notice, either way, a big-time warm-up specifically into the south central plains. All right, let's talk about kind of moving this on ahead in time a little bit, and we'll definitely do that here, as that is important to do. And here we go. So this is going into Tuesday and Wednesday. You'll notice here kind of what happens with the pattern. This big ridging, or this kind of red colors on your map, really begin to build into the east. And with that, a big time return of those southerly winds and more spring-like temperatures here going into the second half of this week. Now, the first half of the week, again, things will begin to warm up. I think every day will be slightly warmer, but really starting out into the central plains, kind of tomorrow and Wednesday, that big warm-up occurs. Then by the time we get into Thursday, Friday, That warm-up then begins out into the east, and you'll notice that here in a moment whenever I take a look at temperatures. Now, don't get too excited. Again, I know a lot of us are excited for spring, but here we go into this coming weekend. Another big trough out of Canada dips back on down into the east, and we're right back to below average temperatures, and also likely to get a storm system to kind of cross the country with this trough. So, it's not going to be all, pretty and spring-like this week, but definitely we'll have pretty extended periods of time that are like that. All right, here we go. Wednesday morning, still pretty quiet through much of the country, but you'll notice as we go into Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, and here we go Thursday morning and afternoon, here comes that low pressure beginning to kind of form at the surface here over the south central plains, and you'll notice showers beginning to develop with it here through the Ohio River Valley into the Ozarks, seeing some rain here during our Thursday, and even into our later on into Thursday afternoon into the Tennessee River Valley, into the deep south. Overnight Thursday into Friday morning here, that rain moves into the mid-Atlantic, the southeast, even into the northeast a little bit. And behind it, here comes this big block of cold air into our weekend. So Saturday afternoon here, look at this massive trough dipping down. Once again, bringing very cold temperatures into much of the country, and could even potentially bring a little bit of a clipper system with it. Might try to bring out some mountain snow into the Appalachia chain. Definitely possible. We'll watch that here in the models, but just know the bigger story here is going to be cold and not so much snowfall. And in fact, the greatest chance with snow out of this block of cold air is likely going to be into the northeast as well as up into Quebec and Ontario, where again all that cold air is going to push on through. Could provide enough lift to maybe squeeze out some precipitation and likely even, I think, some lake effect snow here. Again, a lot of the lakes here still aren't really frozen over, so could see some lake effect snow this weekend as well with this big block of cold air. But as I mentioned, the temperatures are going to be the bigger deal here. So here we go. Wednesday afternoon, we'll start here. Again, very above average temperatures for much of the country as that ridge builds on in. Widespread temperatures likely about 10 to 20 degrees above what they should be this time of year. By the time we get into Thursday afternoon, more of the same. Everyone east of the Rockies just about above average here, maybe outside of just Florida there. But by the time we get into Friday, again, just about the entire country here is pretty well above average. But notice to the north in Canada, here's that block of cold air slowly diving southward, and that will very quickly wreck our spring plans here. By the time we get into Saturday afternoon, you'll notice, look at all these cold temperatures funneling into the northeast, the mid-Atlantic, and by the time we get into our Sunday morning, the mid-Atlantic, southeast, and northeast are well below average, while everyone else is still enjoying those warmer temperatures. But don't fret, because again, I think about 10 days from now, another big ridge builds in, and we're right back on the warm side of things here to end out February. So again, kind of a roller coaster. We see this all the time. Get ready. Your allergies, I'm sure, are also going to be feeling this roller coaster. I'll just tell you ahead of time, as again, things are already starting to bloom in the southeast, and all of this spring-like weather is only going to exacerbate that here into the kind of end of February, and I think into the start of March as well. Now, one thing I will also mention, I know a lot of snow lovers are kind of wondering, well, is this the end? Well, maybe not quite. We do have some historical data to back up the fact that sometimes March can be a little bit snowy as well for a lot of folks, especially kind of into the northeast where we have those colder temperatures. But interesting factoid I'll tell you all, especially my folks watching in South Carolina. South Carolina is actually the only state in the entire country out of all 50 that has not seen snow this winter. So that's kind of crazy. Maybe a snowflake or two fell on top of Caesar's head, but really, just kind of, I'll circle it. Well, I guess you can't see the map anymore, but I'll bring it up very quickly just to show you one more time. This kind of circled area on your map is really the only part of the country that has not seen snow that I guess would be kind of used to it. Now, obviously down here into Florida, we haven't really seen any snow either. But a lot of folks, have had a relatively okay winter, but us in the Carolinas, really just not so much. So we'll see. Maybe March will be a little bit different. Maybe we can sneak in a snowstorm. Wouldn't be the first time it's happened. But just don't get your hopes too high, again, as these very warm temperatures are slowly really going to creep back in, and things are going to start blooming pretty quickly here. And we'll give 1 point to Punxsutawney Phil. Looks like he might have gotten it right this year. Alrighty, well, I appreciate y'all hanging in there. I appreciate you watching on this Monday, and I'll see you all next time.